Welcome back to the show. Still loads more to come, but now I'm joined by our boxing reporter, Sophia De Stefano. Sophia, welcome. Huge fight coming up. Probably the biggest British fight I can think of other than Tyson Fury. Scott Quigg against Frampton coming at MEN Arena. It is a super bantamweight unification fight. This is massive.
Jason, I don't think it actually gets bigger than this. You've got the IBF title on the line. Carl Frampton's defending that. You've got the WBA, Scott Quigg defending that. It's British all showdown. Frampton's going into Quigg's backyard. It's going to be hostile, but it is such an exciting fight. Why? Because I think it's such a 50-50 fight. It's so hard to split the two. They both can hit. They both got unbelievable skills. It makes for an absolutely cracking fight.
Well, you reckon it's 50-50, and you're not alone on that, the reports I've been reading, but Frampton does go into it narrow favourite. Any reason why?
Possibly down to opponents that he's faced, because Frampton's come out and said he doesn't necessarily see that Quigg has fought that many great opponents other than Martinez, who they obviously both fought, but then you had Frampton who beat him twice, but then Quigg knocked him out in the second round. So you kind of like, you know, it's such a tough one to split. Yep. But then obviously Frampton's, they're both unbeaten, yes, which is a massive fact. So, you know, the O record is on the line here, as well as the titles. But then Frampton obviously slightly back off the back of a fight, Gonzalez, who was his toughest fight to date. He got knocked down twice in the first round, but then came through, which is, you know, sign of a champion. So it's a tough one to split them. I'm sitting on the fence on this one.
Well, you're not sitting on it. I mean, well, it's fights
today like, I am.
It's like, well, the fights it's like football matches. They're difficult to predict. They've both got their pride. They've both got, as you said there, their record to look at. But there's bad blood, as there always seems to be going into these huge fights. But there's bad blood not just between the two, but behind the scenes. Barry McGuigan has had problems.
Well, it seems to have slightly generated with the promoters, the managers, the coaches. You got Gallagher. You got Barry McGuigan. Obviously, the Barry McGuigan and Shane McGuigan is Carl Frampton's coach. So there's always a bit of bad blood. You've got Frampton's history with Matchroom Sports as well. So, do you know what? It doesn't need any more hyping up than it already has, but there's definitely a bit of bad blood between them, that's for sure.
As you said, they both fought on the same day, actually, in July of last year. Gonzalez knocked down Frampton twice, and Quigg demolished Martinez. There's a quote here from Quigg, and I'll read it out. He says, he has many flaws, obviously talking about Frampton. Some of them showed in his last fight against Gonzalez, and there are many more I can capitalise on. Any idea what those flaws are, or is this just fighting talk?
To me, it's fighting talk. Like I said, I think they're two of the most talented boxers out there. Okay. Skill, speed, power, they've got it all.
OK, let's talk about Anthony Joshua. He has finally got his heavyweight world title fight arranged. It's going to be on the 9th of April, 02. The tickets sold out in 90 seconds. I'm not surprised by that. No. Olympic gold back in 2012. Just 15 professional fights, though. Now, I personally think this is a big, big step for it. Of course it is. Is it too soon?
For me, I don't think it is too soon. Yes, people are talking about the fact that it's only a 16 pro fight. He's only been a pro for 2 years. He's fighting a guy, Charles Martin, who is also unbeaten. So again, you've got 2 unbeaten records on the line. He has knocked out 21 of his 24 opponents. So he is certainly not... It definitely will be Anthony Joshua's toughest test, but he believes he can beat him. So why would he, in his hometown at the O2, turn down the chance to win a world title in front of his home fans?
The last fight, though, against Dillian Whyte, there was a period in that fight where Dillian Whyte caught him a couple of times, and you think to yourself, OK, we don't really know what chin he's got yet, Joshua. Now, he's got the physique. That doesn't mean anything. Yeah. You know, he's young. You can see what the boy's got under the bonnet, but we still don't quite know. And the problem that he might face, if he does win this world title, the rest are going to be waiting. There's some big heavyweights. David Hayes still waits. Could it be Tyson Fury? Is that the next super British weight?
Well, Fury's obviously... He couldn't... Because everyone turns around and says, well, why is Charles Martin... Because don't forget, Charles Martin called out Anthony Joshua. And Charles Martin, who is the champion, is coming... He's never travelled away from America. And he's coming into...
So why is he doing that?
Because he believes he can win the fight. Right. And so that's why it's so hotly contested. But Charles Martin cannot fight Fury, because Fury's obviously contracted to fight Klitschko in the rematch. Deontay Wilder's got a fight he's got to take on, a mandatory challenger. So these fights can't happen yet, but then everyone's talking about if Anthony Joshua gets through this fight, which I believe he can do, he would actually have to fight all these guys anyway as a defence.
But then you kind of feel that might be too soon, though. This Charles Martin might not be. But if he does come up against some of the other ones, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, even David
he'll have to in the end to defend the title. Right. And then everyone's talking about a big showdown at Wembley, him versus David Haye. Oh. That's what is mouthwatering.
Isn't that what we want? Hey, that is mouthwatering. That's worse than Spurs against Arsenal, that one. That's how big this one is.
It's bigger.
It's even bigger. Let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. He is now...
He's not covered himself in glory this week, has he?
Listen, sportsmen at times can let themselves down, but my God, Manny Pacquiao has repeated his opposition to homosexuality by saying the gay people are worse than animals. And the irony there is not lost on him. The fact that two people go into a ring for fun or money, you could argue that actually they're animals.
Yeah. Jason, you know, it's such a shame because I'm a huge Manny Pacquiao fan. You know, he's 8-weight world champion. He's building up to what he's saying is the last fight of his career against Timothy Bradley, which will be a huge fight. What a shame to sour the end of your career. You know, Nike's terminated his contract. Everyone's coming out. He's come out for so much criticism, totally justifiably. It's disgusting what he's come out and said. And it's a shame because I didn't think that was his personality. You know, I've interviewed him once.
Should we be glad that we do know that about him? Now, Nike have dropped him. Even more worrying, he's a politician.
Do you know what? I know. He's vying for Philippines Senate or something.
He comes from an underdeveloped country, you could argue, or certainly third world country.
It's just very uncharacteristic. For me, from what I've seen of him so far, the way he's conducted himself throughout his whole entire career, I'm really shocked and saddened in a way that this is how he's kind of ended his career in a way.
Yeah, the fallout of that's going to continue. Sophia, thank you very much. You're not going anywhere. We'll speak to you a little bit later on.